got a government. I mean, it is. It almost defies belief that people talk about a circuit breaker. Oh, well, now it's not a circuit breaker because it's a 4-week lockdown and it's 2 weeks later than Keir Starmer wanted. So therefore, of course, apparently it wouldn't work because apparently that's how circuit breakers and lockdowns work. But most of the country is in a tougher tier now than they were before the lockdown that was brought in because we're told that the tiers didn't work. And now we're told the tiers do work, but they didn't work last time, but they really did because we didn't really need lockdown. I mean, can you keep up with it?
I absolutely can't, and I never think that a Black Friday would relate to the emotional state of the country rather than the retail sector. I mean, there was so much promise, wasn't there, about what was going to happen after things were going to, and you know, if we got this right, it'd be great, and we could go back to pubs, bars, restaurants, and theatres. But I think the only panto that people are going to be seeing this year is in Westminster.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to say there was a wonderful point being made by an comedian, Jeff Norcutt, who has said yesterday, "I'm a celebrity, get me out of here," really loses its USP when the contestants have more liberty than 99% of the country. I mean, why am I watching people locked up in a castle, able to, see each other? They're able to actually, have a meal with someone from a separate household. I mean, lucky them.
I think this year the Queen's speech on Christmas Day is just going to be Her Majesty crying and downing a bottle of gin. There is nothing to look forward to.
Well, there is. I mean, there is Christmas to look forward to when we get to kill our grandparents, apparently, because Chris Whitty yesterday, the chief medical officer, he was asked, and Patrick Vallance as well, they were asked, whether what they were going to do at Christmas. I mean, Chris Whitty, to be fair, he basically just made everyone else feel terrible about themselves because he said he was actually going to work on the wards during Christmas Day. I mean, you may as well have just to slapped us all down. I mean, all credit to the guy. But he asked, are you going to be hugging your grandparents? I'm sure he doesn't have grandparents. Oh, elderly, I'm probably parents, but would you? And he said, no, I wouldn't hug grandma if you want them to survive to be hugged again. Which sort of, basically the idea is, okay, we're going to give you the freedom, but don't use it. And now, I completely understand that, you want to get together with family members over Christmas, but, be very careful. Try and do as much outdoors. Don't sit in the same small room. Keep windows open. I mean, everyone's been mocking Nicola Sturgeon on the whole don't share serving spoons, but one of the main reasons why people get ill on cruise liners is because they go to the buffet and they share serving spoons. So, I mean, annoyingly, she's actually right on that one. But the thing is, we're being told you can have this freedom, but don't use it.
Yeah, it was such a bizarre press conference. I mean, like the take-home message is Boris Johnson saying your tear is not your destiny, like he's auditioning for a lead role in Game of Thrones. And I found the whole thing so absurd, and the BBC has now become the Boris Broadcasting Corporation. And the thing that annoys me the most about these continuous press conferences is that I haven't been able to see Flog It in about 4 months, and I just wish we would move forward so we can get back to proper daytime TV.
Yeah, I have to say, it's when my poor child walks in from school and the netball and after school classes and things, and she walks in. I mean, at least it's not every day like it used to be having those press conferences. But she walked in and here we go, another press conference. Sits on the sofa next to me, and then a few minutes in, those dreaded words, "And now let's go to Robert Peston." At which point my 14-year-old went, I swear, not a lie. She goes, "Oh no."
There's a drinking game you can do with Robert Peston. You've got to continuously drink for the amount of time that he talks.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning.
No, I think that's you in a coma. I've never heard a man make so many statements and then finish with some asinine quote that's meant as a question.
I mean, it's genuinely painful. But the thing I find really painful with those press conferences, and people keep saying to me, "Why don't you get one?" I go, "I think we all know why, folks." But it is extraordinary. The first few questions are always equivalently along the lines of, "Oh, you're sure about that, Prime Minister? Oh, aren't you going to kill lots of people if you do that, Prime Minister? Oh, well, why have you not put more people in Tier 3, Prime Minister?" That's always the tone. I never hear anyone, and the amount of times I'm just tweeting madly, will one journalist please ask, what is the evidence for you doing this? And they never ask that. I mean, it's almost like the entire mainstream media in this country has just given up being journalists.
Well, it's always like, let's go over to Beth Rigby from Sky, and she's like, yeah, this COVID stuff's really nice, but let's talk about Brexit. And they're always talking about other things, and I just kind of think that this is a really dangerous territory that we're
Yeah.
getting into, because when people stop watching this and
Yeah.
listening to this, then I think compliance is going to be a huge
I think
issue.
it is going to be huge. I think people are getting very angry. That's the only thing, and I don't endorse people breaking the law. I'm not saying that, but I do. I mean, again, I think that's very difficult when if you, I think the vast majority of us, we're law-abiding citizens. We want to do the right thing. We're not doing anything to take any risks with our or anyone else's health. But there comes a point when the law becomes such an ass, when you are sitting there being lied to by people who you should trust, and you should be able to trust the Prime Minister, whether you voted for them or not, and you should be able to trust the Chief Medical Officer and the Chief Scientific Advisor. And I remember early on in this, when I was in lockdown at home and I had my COVID, and people going, oh, well, I don't believe anything Valance and Whitty said. And I'm like, oh my God, look at the qualifications these people have. These guys are eminent in their fields. I absolutely trust them. And I am genuinely, especially as a GP's daughter, the fact that I'm now questioning what people like these guys are saying. I'm not questioning it because if you are willing to stand up there next to the Prime Minister when he lies to us, that 4,000 a day fear mongering, the 50,000 a day tests infection rate, which Patrick Vallance put up as an example scenario, they know what they're doing, and their scaremongering I consider to be, so unacceptable. I mean sackable as far as I'm concerned. But yesterday we had more of it. It was more about how mass testing. So London, Liverpool, and some other major cities escaped being in tier 3, while so many other, Greater Manchester, Birmingham, let's just go through Greater Manchester, West Midlands, Birmingham, East Midlands, Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire in the North East, Tees Valley, Staffordshire, Warwickshire, Yorkshire and the Humber, South Yorkshire and West Yorkshire, Kent and Medway and the Bristol area, all stuck in tier 3. We're told that Liverpool escaped because of mass testing, because again and again it was stated yesterday that mass testing had brought down the infection rate. Okay, this is provably a lie, and if anyone wants to see it, I can show you the graphs. If you want to look at my Twitter feed, it is provably a lie. The rates of infection in Liverpool started going down at the beginning of October. They didn't start mass testing those rapid tests until about a week into November. Okay, so infection rates were provably, demonstrably on the government's own statistics going down a month before they did mass testing. Bearing in mind, lots of other areas outside of Liverpool also went down when they had mass testing, but didn't have the mass testing. So it is an absolutely nonsense and provably untrue claim for them to make that claim. And yet there we are, press conference, national television, probably 15 million people watching that. And that will stand as a fact. And it's provably untrue.
I wish that they would just be honest with the country and do it like the football, or do it like the darts. Just have a map of the UK there, and they're just chucking darts. And if
To
it
be
lands
fair,
on there, you're tier 3.
to be fair, it'd be a more accurate way of doing it. That's the suspicion, isn't it? We're going to be talking to Damien Green, who's an MP in Kent. We spoke to him earlier in the week, and he's absolutely furious because, of course, a very rural area. They've not got high rates where he is, and yet they've been lumped in, and that's happened again in like areas around Bristol, and lots and lots of places have got the same thing. Lots of Staffordshire, very low cases, but Stoke-on-Trent has got high cases. The reality is, an awful lot of this is just throwing darts at a dartboard, isn't it?
Yeah, or if you've got an Andy Burnham in your region, as this was announced, I could hear him sort of ruffling up and getting his parka.
Yeah. That anorak has been pulled on, isn't it? Yeah. Absolutely. No, and it's finishing. Andy Burnham has pointed out that the mayors who play ball, the Steve Rotherham of Liverpool, who apparently and the government is saying, like, I think Matt Hancock said, the mayors who cooperate with the government, basically you get to be in a lower tier. We're told that mass testing is the route out. I don't know how testing people stops people getting infections. There's no proof that is the case. So this is a little bit of a worry. Are you going to have to get mass tested before you're out of your tier?